If I was stranded on a deserted island, these are the Japanese condiments that I would bring with me. So when I first started making Japanese food, I was pretty lost because a lot of the ingredients were really unfamiliar to me and I didn't really know how to use everything. It felt kind of complicated, but after a lot of help from some amazing, lovely Japanese home cooks around me, especially one of my neighbors, and a lot of help from the internet, I basically found that everything in Japanese cooking really boils down to a few key ingredients. So today we're gonna deep dive into my favorites and what I would recommend as a starter kit. So this is my very real, kitchen scenario. I'm just gonna try to share everything in the order that I would normally use most frequently, starting with Japanese soy sauce. I'm pretty sure this is just regular, maybe dark soy sauce. Anyway, I like to use this shiboritate nama. It's a little bit more fresh. I think it's vacuum sealed or something. And yeah, overall, it just tastes great. So if you can find this, great. I use this a lot. Soy sauce, obviously, I know it's a very basic ingredient, but I know that there's light soy sauces, dark soy sauces, Chinese style, etc. So usually I try to stick to this more basic Japanese style soy sauce when it comes to cooking. My second most used ingredient is probably mirin, and I feel like a lot of Japanese cooking uses mirin roughly the same ratio, so usually I will use these for simmering things quite a bit. And the important thing about mirin is to try to find the ones that say hon mirin. So I think mirin, I believe, is a mixture of alcohol and kind of some sugar, I want to say. Oh, it says here, rice, glutinous rice, koji. I'm not sure exactly what that is in English, but it's, I think, something fermented, and then alcohol. So this is 13.5% alcohol, apparently, and yeah, if you don't find the hon mirin, they usually, I think, don't have the same ratio of alcohol, and it usually doesn't taste as authentic. My Japanese neighbor taught me that. Next up is very similar to mirin, but I use a lot of this Japanese cooking wine. So usually, again, for simmered foods, you will use these two in conjunction quite a bit. But if I don't have this on hand or I run out, I actually like to sometimes use regular Japanese sake. It's not the perfect substitute, but it does well in a pinch. So I might use a distilled imojochu or shochu of some sort. I don't know if that's a acceptable thing. I never have actually looked it up or confirmed it, but I do that sometimes. Look how squished this is. It's because my pantry is a mess, but I use dashinomoto a lot, and this is basically, I want to say, fish powder. This one is the katsuo flavored one, and there's a lot of different soup stocks that you can use that are Japanese soup stocks, and they range from different varieties of fish to, I think, even mushrooms, but the most basic one is katsuo flavored ones, and it's basically salt, a little bit of sugar, some of the fish powder, and yeah, I like the powder type just because it's really easy to use. So the one that I purchase comes in these little easy to use packets. I just find that the powder is the most versatile. However, sometimes I will use this seaweed kombu, although it is a little bit more high level and a little bit more mendokusai. Tamani shika tsukawanai. I'm just gonna count these two items as one. Dashi. Next up on the list is, of course, miso. And I usually like to choose the most basic type of miso, usually awase miso. I don't really go too much for the white or the red specifically, but I do find that, yeah, awase miso is usually my favorite in terms of flavor. It's not too heavy, it's not too light. And then sometimes I will purchase the other ones just for separate cooking use. But miso really gives that punch. So aside from even just using it for miso soup, I like to use it in some sauces, and you can even use it to like dip your vegetables. Like you mix it with a little bit of mayonnaise, Kewpie mayonnaise, and the miso, and that's all you need. Endless cucumber. I wasn't even sure how I was going to mention this or not, but I feel like in terms of pantry staples, this is quite key. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say like, yeah, you need rice, Japanese short grain rice, because it just tastes different. Closer to like a more glutinous style of rice, and look how tiny it is. I can't even like properly show it to you. But yeah, I do love Thai style or, you know, jasmine rice, but sometimes, actually most of the time, I just prefer the Japanese rice because it's a little bit more mochi-mochi and sticky and a little bit sweet and just delicious. Another thing that I use quite frequently, one is, of course, sesame oil. I love using sesame oil. You never want to really heat it up. I just drizzle it on top as a finishing oil, and it just has that really like nutty, almost, you know, very kobashi flavor, and it's great for mixes, putting on top of ramen. I like to mix it with vinegar, which I'm going to show next. Vinegar. And I actually wanted to share my rice vinegar, but I just ran out and I need to repurchase. So I'm going to show you this, but I'm also going to comment that I actually use my rice vinegar more often. But yeah, you use vinegar for like everything. Sauces, dipping, perfect for gyoza. I mix it with, I want to say virtually everything. I even cook and simmer things with it, so it's really great for like balancing out the sweetness of like the mirin when you're cooking some sort of dish. And next, we are going to talk about this bad boy. So Kewpie mayonnaise is the only mayonnaise I own because I actually don't even really like more like regular mayonnaise. But Kewpie is like a whole other level. I don't know why. Maybe it's like the ratio of like the egg to the vinegar in making the mayo, but it's just amazing. It's really deep and rich, so you don't need a lot to feel satisfied. And it's so easy to squeeze out like the tube. They have this like tiny part, and then you can take off the cap and like squeeze it out if you want a little bit more. And it's just super versatile. You can use it with everything. It's great for vegetables. You can use it, you know, on okonomiyaki, sandwiches, anything. Kewpie mayo is everything. Next, also a very frequent flyer is ponzu. And I actually have like 3 different types in my fridge, but ajipon is maybe the most like basic, all around great ponzu. And I also really like these types that have like citrus flavorings. So this one is kabosu, and we use this a lot. It's usually great for like dipping meats and even just for making some sort of sauce. But if I was gonna choose one, I'd probably actually keep the kabosu one just because I like the flavor of it better. So we can say goodbye to this guy. But I think this one's a little bit more like accessible. As you notice, I have a lot of vinegar, and I'm just like really obsessed with vinegar because I feel like it really cuts through any heaviness of like oily foods or like heavy rich meats. So you can use it for a lot of things to kind of balance out the palate. And last but not least, I'm going to share with you my mentsu, and I use this quite frequently because I love noodle dishes. So usually I'll put this on udon, somen. So there's a lot of ways to use mentsu as well, but the main purpose is of course to use for noodles. Although, I'm looking here now, you can also use it for oden or tentsu, so like tendon, etc. Yeah, mentsu, quite versatile. And look, I only have like less than half a bottle left, and I'm actually planning on eating noodles this week, so whew. I'm gonna throw in we are huge fans of pepper in this house and hot food, but we especially love our shichimi, and this one is one of my favorite brands. I want to say it's like Yawataya. I'm probably making that up. I will post the correct name later. But it's, I think, from Nagano because I see it sold there as like a souvenir a lot, and it's maybe the most flavorful shichimi I've ever had. But we also do have like a more cheap version as well. So we also like to have the SNB version of shichimi on hand because my husband loves to like pour on shichimi because he's crazy. I personally prefer this one, and it's great for like adding to that mensu that I just mentioned now to kind of like spice up your noodles or put it on meats, and it just kind of like balances everything out and gives it a little bit of like spiciness. So shichimi is another thing that is really necessary in our household. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about any of these or anything outside of this that you want to know more about. I can do my best to explain, possibly look up on ChatGPT as well because I don't know everything. So I'm going to be making a quick dish out of drumsticks and daikon and be using a lot of the condiments I showed you the other day. So let's get on it. This is a super simple recipe. It's basically just like cutting things up and throwing it into a pot. And I'm gonna be using a pressure cooker, but you don't need to. Smells so good. And I'm just gonna like top it off with some spring onions and call it a day. I love one pot meals. Itadakimasu. So good. The vinegar just really makes, it just cuts through the oil and it makes it so easy to eat. And I feel like the daikon really just sucks in all of the flavor of everything, like the pantry staple condiments, the chicken broth, just, it really pulls everything together. Anyway, this is what it looks like refrigerated. So you can see like the oil kind of floating the top, but that is it for my pantry staples. But I'll continue to post more cooking videos, so stay tuned and yes, stick around. Jane!